Hello and welcome to this training, How to Influence with Impact and Create Win-Wins in Your Business. My name is Holly McHugh and I've partnered with Go Digital to bring you this training. So what we're going to cover across these 4 videos. Firstly, the fundamentals. What is it that really makes communication effective? When you have these fundamentals in place, it is far easier to create a strong, trustworthy relationship with a prospect or a client. In video 2, we'll look at simple tricks to set yourself apart in your business and make it easy for your ideal clients to connect with you. In video 3, we'll introduce the world-leading DISC model. This is used by 75% of the Fortune 500 companies, and for good reason. This is a really simple, practical framework that's going to help you cement a lot of the communication strategies that we'll cover and give you a reference point in order to be able to bring more people on board easily and effortlessly into your products and your services. In video 4, we'll look at how to use DISC to create win-wins in your business and unlock additional revenue streams. So let's get started. What is it that makes communication effective? Purely and simply, communication is above all about creating a connection. Now, often, and especially when we get busy, we can overlook the basics. Each and every one of our prospects or our clients wants to feel heard, understood, and acknowledged. And it's very important that we do establish that authentic connection where we show that we care, we're interested, and we're engaged in their needs. Now, the big communication paradox that happens is that communication itself is just like the very tip of the iceberg. Communication is based on demonstrable behaviors. It's above all what we see and what we hear. But what we see and what we hear is only a teeny tiny part of the full picture. And when we listen to someone else, what we don't see and what we don't experience is everything that's going on beneath the surface. Now, beneath the surface, there is actually a lot taking place. And there's a lot that shapes and drives that particular communication. Firstly, there's each of our value systems. There's our beliefs and our thoughts in terms of what we feel about the world around us. There's associations to different things that have been shaped by our own unique experience. And this will be down to all the way back to our childhoods, our backgrounds, our religion, our culture. All of this has shaped our associations and our beliefs, and equally our value systems. There's also our attitudes towards different things in the world around us, and our own unique individual experience across our lifetime that is distinct to each and every one of us. Now, all of that is taking place beneath the surface, and all of that unconsciously is shaping how we interact and how we respond with what is going on in any given situation or communication. And what this means is what was intended is not necessarily what is received as the message on the other side. So sometimes we can actually misunderstand what someone else meant because of the way that they communicated with us. And because of our interpretation of that communication based on our values, beliefs, associations, attitudes, and overall experience of the world. And this is where the big breakdowns can happen. So we must always assume positive intent because we don't know what was truly meant and we don't know what is going on behind the scenes. We could mistakenly interpret someone as being rude or standoffish when really they're actually just a bit shy, or they're having a bad day and we aren't aware of those details. We could equally misinterpret someone as being arrogant and over the top, when really they're just very enthusiastic about something, and this is how they display their enthusiasm. So as I said, we must always assume positive intent, and we must remember that we're only ever seeing a teeny tiny part of the overall picture when it comes to any conversation or interaction. We do not know what lies beneath, and we don't know what's driving that communication unless we get into a deeper level of conversation where someone can really explain and describe what's going on for them at a given moment in time. Now, when you can establish a trustworthy relationship with a prospect or client, depending on the area of your business, then you're going to be able to dig deeper and you're going to be able to understand what's really going on for them that's leading them to want to purchase your product or service, or at least interested to solve a particular problem that they're facing right now. So why communication breaks down? It's because we think of it too simplistically. We really do think that what we see is what we get, and what we hear is what was meant. So just to break that down, a typical flow of communication stream would be I think, I speak, you hear what I say, therefore you know what I mean. But as I've just described, we each are seeing the world in a slightly different way, based on our own unique individual experiences. And from that perspective, we're kind of looking at the world through our own individual rose-tinted glasses. So what really happens is I think, I encode based on my map of the world and the way that I draw meaning from the world around me based on my previous experience, my attitudes, associations, values, and beliefs. I speak, you hear, you decode based on your map of the world and how you look through your own individual version of rose-tinted glasses, and you think you know what I mean. Now, we'll all have our own examples and experiences of breakdowns in communication. Maybe it's been in a one-on-one conversation where you've given what you thought was really clear directions to someone else, and they just haven't delivered on what you wanted. And it completely broke down in communication. There was a misunderstanding. Or maybe you've received instructions from someone else. You thought you'd understood what was required in that task, and you set about putting those things into practice. And then it turned out that's not at all what that person meant, and you haven't quite delivered. It's frustrating and it's time consuming. And what happens here is that more often than not, we've rushed the communication process. We haven't really taken that pause to reflect and check in. Is the message that I'm delivering to you the same one that you are receiving? Is the intention that I have behind this communication clearly understood? So it's really about making sure that you are on the same page by clarifying, questioning, summarizing, and even paraphrasing to make sure that everyone has understood the same goal. This is really important when working not only with team members and stakeholders, but equally suppliers, vendors, and of course your prospects and your future clients. So the biggest communication problem is that we do not listen to understand. We listen to reply. Have a think for a moment about a typical conversation or interaction. Are you waiting for your turn to speak, or are you genuinely being present to what is being said? Because a lot of vital information can be missed if we are simply listening to reply. We're only going to get that teeny tiny part of the fuller picture. And for that reason, we can often miss opportunities. Opportunities especially to really understand what our client needs and wants. So in terms of understanding this idea of a map of the world, it's really crucial to understand that we do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. We are all projecting our own version of reality onto the world around us, and that's based on our internal map, which has been contributed to through all the layers of experience that we've had since birth. And we each create a different viewpoint and opinion based on our individual experience. And how we define each of those experiences determines our beliefs towards that thing. So a really simple example. If I had an experience as a child of being bitten by a dog, I might choose to define that experience as pretty negative. It was scary, it was painful, I was upset. That one experience alone could then create a belief in my mind that dogs are bad. Dogs are scary, dogs are dangerous, dogs bite. And I may never question that belief again. And this is the really interesting thing. is that a thought that we no longer question becomes a belief. And it's a story we tell ourselves, even when there might be a lot of different evidence to point to another alternative. But crucially, and most importantly, it's the behaviors that are then influenced by that belief or that thought that is key. So if I see a dog in the street, I might cross the road to avoid it. If I am friends with someone who has a dog, I might not choose to go around to their house. And this could even have greater repercussions because I might not want to enter into a relationship with someone who was dog mad. So it's going to have a bigger impact on my lifestyle overall because of this belief, which is based on experience. And each and every one of us have created beliefs accordingly. If we no longer question those, then we can stay stuck in our stories, which may or may not be very helpful to us. So our thoughts and our beliefs drive our behavior and our response in any given communication or interaction. And this is just an important thing to bear in mind, because if you're working with a new client or you're in the initial stages of having those initial conversations with a prospect who you are hoping will become a future client, you may not be aware of past experiences that have caused them to be more reluctant to invest or more hesitant about making decisions. And this is again where building that connection and that relationship and that trust is going to be really key. A client may, for example, have a belief that salesmen are dodgy. That could be based on past experience that has been negative. Equally, they could have a belief that salesmen are talented, and that has also been shaped by past experience. So we are all dealing with all of this each time we have an interaction or a communication with someone, and it's just something we need to bear in mind. Now, the biggest downfall of communication is when we assume, when we've assumed that we've understood what is really being said, or we've actually cut someone off. We don't even let them finish their sentence because we've already decided what it is they're looking for or what it is they meant. We are again going to miss vital pieces of clues and information that can help us have a fuller understanding of what that person is really looking for, what that person really needs. And this will help us tailor our response and make it far more effective in our communication, which is far more likely to bring that person on board and make a sale. So to create a connection with our ideal clients, we must understand how they see the world and speak in their language. Now, when I say see the world, here it's just going to come down to the particular context of your product and service. What is their past experience of dealing with your type of business in the past? What have they used previously in terms of a particular type of product? Where have they had a great experience with a particular service? What are they looking for this time around if it's a repeat buy? Now, it's really important to remember as well that there are 3 pillars of communication. There are the words we speak, there's the tone of voice that we use, so the pitch, and there's the body language. Our eye contact, our gestures, our movements, how we hold ourselves, how we sit, stand, walk. Most people place all the emphasis and all the preparation on the words they use. And in particular, when it comes to selling, we can really focus on that alone. But actually, that is just 7% of communication overall. So only a teeny tiny part of someone's overall experience of communicating with you is going to come down to the words that you use. The vast majority is instead going to come down to your tone of voice, how you say the words that you're using, where you place emphasis, where you pause, whether your energy in your voice is upbeat and excited or more serious and somber, whether you genuinely sound interested and engaged or bored and standoffish. All of this is going to have an impact on the other person's experience of you. And equally, your body language. It's so frustrating when you walk into a shop or a store and someone says hello without even looking up. We want to make sure that we're acknowledging our prospects and our future clients and using that all-important eye contact. And if you're on the phone, your tone of voice is going to be even more important to have that warmth and welcome and engagement come across. Equally, your body language is going to be important when you can consider how you stand, how you interact, how you involve and include the other person. And importantly, these are the things that you want to be looking out for when you're communicating with others. What are the words that your prospect is using? What do they keep coming back to? What words seem to be repeated a lot of the times? How do they describe what they're looking for and their current problem or challenge they're looking to solve? This is all really valuable intel because you can use this to reflect back and build a greater connection. Equally with their tone of voice. Are they enthusiastic or excited about something in particular? Where does their voice seem to shift and change? Where does it light up? Where can you really sense that there's an underlying frustration or even reluctance and hesitation behind what they're saying and what they're asking for? This is where you can be curious and question and probe around that. And equally their body language. How are they standing and sitting? How are they moving around the room? What do they seem to be paying attention to the most? A lot of communication in terms of clues as to what you need to pick up on is actually going to be non-verbal. So key takeaways from the first video, just to give you a few thought starters. Communication is first and foremost about creating a connection. We want this to be real, human, and authentic. Breakdowns in communication are driven by assumptions that we make, and our assumptions are driven by our own map of the world, our own experiences, attitudes, associations, beliefs, and values. What we are not seeing is the full picture of someone else's. And we are each seeing the world in a different way. Communication is above all a holistic experience where the vast majority is non-verbal. We need to start paying more attention to tone of voice and body language and recognizing that words, while important, are just a teeny tiny part of the overall picture and the overall experience that someone will take away.